Hi, welcome to another episode of Look Ma No Hands. My name is Linda, and on my podcast, my program, I talk about all my hobbies, which include crochet, art and painting, reading, and watching all of my favorite shows and sometimes movies that are currently in theaters. So, this week I am wearing a crochet sweater that I made, I think back in the spring of last year. It's the Franny Granny sweater by Hand Jan Crochet, and I added a hood to the sweater just to see, one, if I could do it, how it would look. So yeah, and that is what I was stitching this week. Like I said, the sweater I completed last spring, but the hood I stitched up during the week. I used the instructions from the hooded scarf that I did a few weeks ago from Vivi Crochets. Instead of adding the hood part, or instead of adding the scarf part to the hood, I just made the continued rows to make the hood big enough to come all the way forward over like the back of the head, over the top of the head. I didn't add the extra chains on either end to extend the length of the front of the hood, thus making it just the hood without the scarf part. So after doing that, I then switched to a smaller hook and crocheted a row of single crochet stitches across the unfinished edge of the hood, basically like the bottom part of the hood, to give a little bit of a foundation to be able to attach the hood to the neckline of the sweater. So it was a big experiment. I wasn't sure exactly how it was going to turn out, but it turned out not too bad. You can kind of see the hood down the back there. I don't really want to put it up because it'll end up messing up my hair even worse than it already is. So maybe I'll snap a photo, a little selfie, and add a picture of it, just so that you can get the full effect of the hood. It actually turned out way better than I thought it would, so it was a good experiment. The other things that I've been working on is still continuing on with the Dazzling Octagon motif that I've been working on the last few weeks. Kind of looking forward to continuing that project. As I've said previously, it's going to be an ongoing endeavor, just because the intricacy of the pattern makes it such that I can't finish more than maybe one square per day, and because it takes so much concentration to make sure I have the right stitch count with each round, I am definitely taking my time finishing those squares. So I'm in no hurry to get them all completed. I do kind of have a little bit of a better idea of how many squares I can get per color combination, so starting to think towards what to do with the squares when I'm finished with them, or if I'll need to add any extra squares like I thought I might have to do with the coordinating kind of solid colored yarn or speckled yarn that I have that is the same weight as the brightly colored mini skeins that I have. So we'll see. It's definitely a project that I'm excited to finally be working on after almost 2 years of having the yarn, now that I finally have found the project that I feel is the right project for it. It's coming along. So that's all I've been stitching. Then I guess I'll move on to what I've been reading like I usually do. This week I only finished one book. I have a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, things that are happening that have kind of, again, taken my focus away from my little like relaxing hobbies. So the book that I read this week is called Meditation, It's Not What You Think by John Kabat-Zinn. This book is nonfiction, which I don't read a lot of nonfiction, but want to try to commit myself to doing more of that, just to kind of expand my knowledge on various topics and things like that. So meditation is something that I've always been kind of interested in, just because I know it has like a lot of benefits mental health wise, and even like what I learned a little bit in this particular book is the mind-body connection, and how important it is to take that time to kind of turn inward and really focus on like what it is that we're experiencing in our bodies when we're thinking and feeling and all that kind of stuff. So it was an interesting book, just even the title of Meditation, It's Not What You Think. Everybody always thinks of meditation, and this is something that the author said, as like you're sitting on the floor cross-legged, like chanting. And though that is like one form of meditation, the goal of meditation is to try and like just focus your mind and like pay attention to your surroundings and pay attention to your feelings and your thoughts and any sensations that are coming into your body. It was interesting listening to what he was saying about like various professional sports teams that use meditation and mindfulness as part of their practices, like their athletic practices. He was talking about Phil Jackson, who was the coach of the Bulls in the 90s, encouraging the players to take up a mindfulness and meditation practice, and how that may have kind of played a role in their success in the 90s. You know, repeat the three-peat. They won 6 championships during that time period. So obviously there is some correlation of physical success that can be achieved through meditation and mindfulness. I know a lot of like marathon runners and like just very high level athletes use meditation and mindfulness to be able to kind of mediate stress and pain when they're in their races and in their competitions. And I think that's a really interesting thing, the way they were talking about meditation is not like clearing your mind or like putting a stop to all thoughts. It's being able to attend and recognize what's happening around you, what's happening to your body, and kind of addressing all of those feelings. So it was a cool book if you're interested in like what is meditation and like how you might be able to apply it in your everyday life. This book was definitely a good read, very informative, and I really enjoyed it. So even though that was the only thing I had time to read this week, yeah, it was good. We've been watching pretty much all the same shows. General Hospital, Will Trent, Shifting Gears. Unfortunately, our Thursday night lineup was not on this week. I think probably because of the Olympics being on. So everything's kind of on pause until the 2 weeks of Olympic competitions are over. So we'll definitely be picking that back up in 2 weeks. But in the meantime, we've been enjoying various competitions. I love all the figure skating stuff. What other competitions do I enjoy watching? I like the ski jumps and the snowboarding and those kinds of things. Tim says that those stress him out because of like the speed and the intensity of the athletes when they're coming down the jumps and things like that. I marvel at the abilities of these high level athletes, and like how fearless they seem, and like focused, and just thinking about all the work that goes into like those 3 or 4 minutes of their competition. Just, I have so much respect for how hard they work in the times leading up to the big competitions like the Olympics. So yeah, and then kind of watching some of the opening ceremonies and things like that. It's always very interesting to see how various countries prepare the performances, and highlight the history of their country, and like the art of their country, and just all of the cool like international things that you can learn about by watching the Olympics. So yeah, it's definitely something that I look forward to when Olympic season comes around. We'll be looking forward to watching the Paralympics when they come around in a couple of weeks. So yeah, if you have any comments that you want to leave about the competitions that you enjoy watching during the Olympics, any memories that you have of like past Olympics, because I'm like super excited for watching the figure skating and listening to Tara Lipinski as like the commentator now for figure skating, since she was kind of like in her prime, like in her competition times when I was young. We're kind of almost the same age, so just seeing how she's been able to stay active in the sport even though she's no longer competing. It's just kind of crazy to think that like we've become like the the sages of our generation when it comes to whatever it is that was our profession. So yeah, it's fun watching all of the people that were young when I was young now, like just thinking about where their success at that time has taken them. So yeah, I guess going on and on. Other things that we watched this week, a movie on Netflix called Elenor the Great. It looked like it would be very interesting. The premise of the movie is that there's an octogenarian that was living with like her best friend, and the best friend passed away, and then her having kind of a difficult time coping with her friend's death. She had to move back to New York with her daughter and grandson, and the daughter's trying to get her set up with just some kind of situation that she can be looked after during the daytime. Being, you know, of that advanced age, she didn't want her to be home alone, so setting her up with activities at the Jewish Community Center. And this woman kind of takes on the identity of her friend and starts speaking to her friend's experience as a prisoner in the concentration camps during World War II in Europe. And she kind of concocts this whole story that she starts talking with a young journalism student as though those stories were her stories. A lot of things transpire that makes the story quite messy, and people's feelings get hurt, and she has to try to make amends for the way she behaved in taking on her best friend's story as though it was her own. So it was definitely an interesting movie to watch. There's a lot of very deep conversations to be had because of like in this movie. And yeah, it was just definitely not entirely the happy-go-lucky kind of thing that I usually watch. There were definitely some lighthearted moments in it, and the character Elenor is quite spunky. I really enjoyed that character, and really felt all kinds of emotions in knowing how, like, as we age and get older, we want to find like purpose in our lives. And I think that was a big theme of the story, was like she was really struggling with the fact that she was coming to the end of her life and just grappling with her own mortality and things like that. So it was a good story, yeah. And then on Tuesday night we went to the movie theaters because of like the discounted tickets that they sell on Tuesday nights. I went and saw the movie Send Help with my husband Rick. Had a little date night kind of deal. The advertisements for the movie did not disappoint. Like, all of like the intensity of the kind of psychotic character that Rachel McAdams plays, like, it was just a really intense movie. If you don't know anything about it, it's like plane crash survivors and trying to survive on like this deserted island, and the main character kind of being able to get her revenge against her really crappy boss while they're marooned on this island. It was definitely an intense thriller. I was kind of torn between being like, wow, she's super crazy and like so wrong for doing what she's doing, but then being like, it's kind of cool to see her being kind of like this intense like warrior woman kind of person. So yeah, it was just I felt very torn about how the character evolved and like how things ended and what have you. But it was a very good movie. So if you're into like those kind of gruesome psychological thriller type of movies, totally go see that, because it was pretty good. As to things that are happening in life, it's not quite as cold as it has been lately, so that's feeling pretty good. And other than that, just hanging out and doing the things that we do and enjoying everything. Gearing up for Super Bowl weekend. The guys, of course, like watching the game. I like watching all the commercials. So yeah, it's gonna be a good weekend. Lots of fun with Super Bowl weekend. So if this is your first time here, thanks for stopping by. If you enjoyed what you saw, go ahead and hit that like button. Maybe if you want to come back for more, hit subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And for those who come back week after week, you know, I appreciate you always coming in to take a listen and see what I'm up to. And I really appreciate any comments you guys drop. Like I said, go ahead and drop some comments about what you enjoy about the Olympics if you watch them. Let me know what you thought of this year's opening ceremonies, which were very artful. It was definitely an experience watching those performances. So yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this year's Olympic competitions. All right, have a great week.